Welcome inside the Celtics practice facility in Waltham. My name is Mike Petraglia, joined by Sam Packard, Celtics writer for WEEI.com. Sam, we finally know the long-awaited draft status of the 2016 Boston Celtics. We knew coming in they'd have 3 first-round picks. The hope was, certainly Danny Ainge hoped, that it would be the number 1 pick in the draft, and perhaps they get Ben Simmons, or perhaps take a shot at Brandon Ingram out of Duke with the number 2 pick. They have to settle for number 3 as the 2016 draft lottery, in a very unusual occurrence of events, went exactly to order. That is, teams 1 through 14 in the lottery finished slotting up exactly where they were supposed to go. According to Mike Zarin of the Celtics, that's the first time that's ever happened. So what's your biggest takeaway from the Celtics finishing 3rd in the draft lottery? What are they going to do?
I don't think anyone knows at this point. I don't think they know. I think it's really forces them into a wait-and-see mode. They're definitely going to shop the pick around, and they're definitely going to feel comfortable taking it if they don't get the trade they want. I think there's a lot of the talk about it being a 2-player draft seems kind of a little far-fetched in my mind, because if we think of the last 2-player draft, that was 2007 with Greg Oden and Kevin Durant. And obviously Greg Oden's not playing in the league anymore, and the 3 and 4 picks in that draft were Al Horford and Mike Conley. Right. So at this point, we really don't know what players they're going to be, if Ingram or Simmons are definitely going to pan out. So I think 3 is a great place for them to be, and at least they didn't fall any farther.
Well, and one of the takeaways I had from Danny Ainge's press conference right behind us after the draft lottery results were made official on ESPN is that he's going to take the best player available if indeed the Celtics do not make a trade. And he told us, the media, that it's going to be very hard to trade that number 3 pick.
Yeah, it's kind of funny to see Danny Ainge being a big fan of the draft class now in past years when he's kind of poo-pooed it. I think it's interesting for him to say best player available, because they really have a lot of guards on this roster right now. So if that player is someone like Chris Dunn or Buddy Hield, it may not make the most sense. So I would probably look for them to draft a big man, someone like Dragan Bender from Croatia. That just makes more sense with their lineup. They just have a lot of a logjam at the guard position right now.
What are the other needs that could be addressed, do you think, on this roster? I mean, we obviously know, as you pointed out, this is a very guard-heavy roster with lots of talent, lots of depth. Even though they were banged up in the playoff series against Atlanta, the guard play was still what stood out to a lot of people watching this team closely.
I think the 2 biggest needs for this team are a elite shooter from the wing and then a rim protector, and that's why I think someone like Bender will be valuable. I could also see them going with trading down, because someone's going to want that next best pick, and there's plenty of big men who are available in that kind of 6 through 10 range. Someone like Sabonis out of Gonzaga, Jacob Pelosi. There's a number of big men who could fall, so I wouldn't be surprised if the Celtics traded their pick.
Talking with some Celtics executives after this, they said it's very interesting to compare this particular experience, 2016, to 9 years ago in 2007. And one Celtic executive told me, look, this is a lot different. We finished with a winning record, and Brooklyn did the losing for us. And it's very important to keep that perspective. This is a Celtics team that won 48 games and is perhaps a piece or 2 away, like you mentioned, a wing shooter and a rim protector, from being an elite Eastern Conference team, challenging the Torontos, challenging the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah, and this is only the first time that we're getting kind of the benefits of the Nets trade. So next year they have a pick swap, so wherever the Nets finish, and then in 2018 they also have the next first-round pick. So really, if you kind of went back to the original trade and thought you got the 3rd pick in the NBA draft for trading away Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett and still have your own pick, it's a pretty good haul. So the Celtics are really starting to benefit now, and they really have nothing to complain about. It's just now they're in kind of a more of a wait-and-see mode.
This is the first time that the Celtics will have picked as high as number 3 in the draft overall since 1997, and we remember what happened that year. That was the Tim Duncan draft. Of course, Rick Pitino blamed that draft for his early departure and his lack of success here in Boston. But that was Chauncey Billups, number 3 out of Colorado. 3 picks later, it was Ron Mercer out of Kentucky. That was a nice take, but it really wasn't a franchise changer. My question for you, Sam, is at number 3, do you think the Celtics still have the chance of taking a player that could change this franchise next year?
Absolutely. We really have no idea how these players are going to react to the NBA. They are 18, 19 years old. really, like Steph Curry was a number 7 pick. There's a number of stars who have kind of fallen later in the draft and not necessarily picked number 1. And at this point, we really have no idea who those players are going to be. It could be someone like Dragon Bender, or Ben Simmons could be as great as everyone thinks he is. But really, to kind of make that judgment at this point doesn't make much sense, especially these guys haven't even stepped on the floor.
Well, and I had a chance to ask Danny Ainge exactly that. Does the process of evaluating players continue, even though you know where you're drafting? And he said, absolutely, it does. This just kind of sets in stone what we're shooting for, and maybe we can start fielding a few more calls because now other teams know where we're drafting and what that pick might be in terms of value to them. So we'll continue that process, but they are still going to be bringing players in here to the practice facility, running them through the workouts to see what best player and what best fit for the organization can be had going forward.
And ultimately, they have the biggest decision right now because the number 2 kind of are already slotted out. You know it's going to be Simmons and Ingram. So the Celtics have their pick of the litter, and really, you imagine they're going to bring every single other player in on a workout, and it's going to be up to their choice. So really, it's up to the scouting department and the GM and Danny Ainge to hit on a player. Really, the Celtics haven't had great drafts in the past. No one's really turned out to be the star they were looking for. This is probably the best chance they've had, at least in the Brad Stevens era.
What about Kentucky's Jamal Murray? What do you think? What kind of fit would that be here?
He's an unbelievable shooter. I kind of question his ability to play point guard and his ability to defend. But
those are two big ifs.
Those are two big ifs. He's probably a shooting guard, which I'm not sure the Celtics need right now, but I think they do need outside shooting, and his shot is one of the best in college basketball last year. So I really wouldn't be surprised if they took anyone right now. They have a lot of, or like we said, we have those 2 needs of shooting and a big man, so wouldn't be surprised if they go in either of those 2 directions.
All right, the Celtics have only drafted first overall once, and that was back in 1950.
Who would they take?
Charlie Blake out of Bowling Green.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, I had to bone up on my Celtics draft research there. And obviously in 1986, it was the sad story of Len Bias taken right behind Brad Daugherty. But number 3, Celtics are picking that high for just the second time in their franchise history. The first time, obviously, back in 1997 when they took Chauncey Billups. That's the story here in Celtics land at the Celtics practice facility. Some disappointment, but in the end, the Celtics happy with the number 3 pick that they will be taking in the June 23rd draft. And the June 23rd, 2016 NBA draft, looking to add to a roster that has already given this franchise 2 consecutive playoff berths. They're looking to take the next step. Maybe the player that they get at number 3 overall on June 23rd will help them do just that. Inside the Celtics practice facility here in Waltham, he is Sam Packard. I'm Mike Petraglia, WEEI.